and welcome back to the Fans Go Mild here with me, Bob Smith, and speaking before the break of how poorly AFC Auckland have been doing in the A-League since Shaun Does FM did leave them an update on his potential next landing spot. He's been spotted leaving both Napier Airport and Christchurch Airport over the past few days. A couple of jobs are available in the National League around those areas, so maybe that could be his next landing spot for the All Whites manager, of course famous for his 3 straight A-League titles and leading the All Whites to the second round of the FIFA World Cup over in America, Mexico and Canada. Could we be about to see Shaun Does FM in the National League? Hello everyone and welcome to episode number 39 of the New Zealand Builder Nation here on Shaun Does FM with the All Whites, and today we've got a new team to manage down in the New Zealand National League. We'll do the unveiling off the back of a recap of the internationals that we have played since the end of last week. So if you're looking forward to a new chapter of the save starting in today's episode, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying the series here on the channel, also consider hitting that subscribe button and turning that notification bell on as well. It is greatly appreciated and it will make sure you don't miss out on an episode with our new club. At end of last week, had to leave AFC Auckland because of winter update bug reasons, so if you missed that episode explaining why that was the case, I'll leave a link to it over in the top right corner before we do the big unveil for the club that we are about to go to in the New Zealand National League. And it is actually quite a good club that we have found rather fortunately. Have played a couple of friendlies while I was looking for a job in the National League. 2 international windows, albeit the first one actually skipped because I were able to select quite a weak New Zealand team while Olympic qualifying was going on. Thankfully, they cruised their way through that, did the under-23s with a few All Whites involved. But off the back of that, we played 2 friendlies. The first one, a bit of a grudge match for New Zealanders as we took on Costa Rica, the team that kept us out of the World Cup in Qatar in real life. And despite the fact that we were away from home, actually did quite well in this game and land. The first half, we did open the scoring. Sloan Rodriguez, their ball over the top for Callum McCall. It bangs it home and gives us a 1-0 lead at halftime. And then we put a cherry on top with a free kick routine, a short one. It finds its way there to George McDonald. EI goal, a 2-0 win over Costa Rica. That is very rewarding off the back of what happened in real life in the World Cup Continental Playoff. Doing a bit better here in this save as we pick up a 2-0 win. And only a few days off the back of that, we flew back home to New Zealand to take on a Honduras team who did beat us, I believe, in the episode last week, but this time got some revenge. George McDonald, another EI goal there, just shy of the half-hour mark to give us a 1-0 lead. And late on, we steal a result. The Wayne Train, he scores a penalty, and yet another 2-0 wins. 2 good results for us there, and thankfully, we did pick up those results, because of the fact that we didn't play friendlies during the Olympic qualifiers, we actually slipped down the world rankings a bit, down to 70th, but those 2 wins did mean we now find ourselves back up in equal 67th. It does feel a little bit harsh considering Costa Rica quite a way above us in terms of their world rankings, but thankfully 2 wins that we picked up off the back of the end of last week to make sure we are still in a pretty decent position with the national team and just to keep ourselves in the public eye a little bit while we were in search of a job in the New Zealand National League. Only 2 jobs did come up that were in that league, which was a little bit disappointing. I was hoping there'd be a few more, but as you can see by the date in game, we are still a wee way away from the start of the National League season itself, so it does mean got lots of time to hopefully revamp a squad going in to the new season, which is going to kind of be the 5th season of the Save It Be Fair. Already made our way halfway through the A-League season, what would have been with AFC Auckland. Before we do the unveiling, a quick look at what's going on in the A-League. AFC Auckland are in 9th. They're not doing very well. Jimmy Van Reelen was the manager who took over from us, an Australian who formerly managed the Redcliffe Waves in their first stint when they joined the competition. So you can kind of see why he's been struggling at AFC Auckland, because he's not very good. AFC Auckland all the way down in 9th, to be fair. I'm pretty sure the Wellington Phoenix are actually top of the table. Indeed, they are. So the Phoenix are top of the league in this situation. AFC Auckland having a shocker since we have left, which I'm a little bit surprised about because that team, based on the season preview, would still be quite comfortably the best one in the division. But it's now time to reveal where we are going to in the New Zealand National League. We had 2 options. One was a team called Havelock North, who are a 1.5-star reputation club. They based themselves up in Hastings, which is in Hawke's Bay of the North Island of New Zealand. But another job did come up, which was a little bit better, and I am going to take it, even though I actually said at the end of last week I might not take a job at a club that had previously won the National League. To be fair, I don't think these guys quite count as a big gun. I was more referring to Christchurch United, Auckland City, and Wellington Olympic. The team that we are going to is Cashmere Technical down in Christchurch, a team that has won the National League in the save, but last season they finished last after they did qualify from the Southern League. That's going to be quite a large part of today's episode, explaining how this New Zealand system does work since we did the Hexagon Challenge, because it's changed quite a bit since then. But Cashmere Technical is where we're going on a higher wage than we were getting paid at AFC Auckland, so that's quite nice. And also £1.6 million in the transfer budget, the wage budget, not that much lower either than AFC Auckland. So actually, this is not a bad drop for us in terms of the finances that we'll be dealing with. And also, they're actually a professional club. I was quite surprised to see that this was the case. Hopefully, that will make things good for us. We'll make sure that we don't have to go through that awkward semi-pro to pro stage at some point during the save. If we can do a decent job in the future, pick up an AFC Champions League, and maybe go somewhat deep in a FIFA Club World Cup. But Cashmere Technical, that is where we're going. Last season in the National League, they were bottom of the heap off the back of actually qualifying for that championship phase. As you need to do, that was a bit of a surprise. No doubt why their manager has been given the boot, but hopefully we can do a much better job and get up there into one of those OFC Champions League qualifying spots. But we are going to take this job here at Cashmere Technical Club with 2-star reputation, just a half-star below where we were at AFC Auckland. Time to start negotiations, but to be fair, pretty happy with all of this stuff, especially the wage, considering, as I said, we're actually getting paid less at AFC Auckland in the A-League, which doesn't make a ton of sense. But we'll make our way through here, this club introduction, and then have a little bit of a look at what I've done so far. Haven't made my way through to the start of the season. We're going back in time just a little bit here to get into the screen again. But here is the confirmation. We are going to Cashmere Technical. There are our accolades there. Lifted the A-League lots of times and all that stuff. But hopefully we can do a decent job in this time. Win the Southern League last season. They finished second in behind Christchurch United, who I would consider the big gun in the Southern League, especially off the back of the most recent season in real life, where they've been quite good. In terms of this club, though, last season, actually the runners-up in the Chatham Cup, despite the fact they did quite poorly in the National League. The Chatham Cup is the New Zealand version of the Australian Cup or the FA Cup, so that's the only cup competition in this New Zealand League. So finishing runners-up does show they've still got a pretty good team. Also worth mentioning, Director of Football Aaron Clapham. He's someone I've been working with the All Whites, so someone I've got a bit of a relationship with there already here at Cashmere Technical. They were only founded in 2012 and the finances are secure. That's something which is also quite nice to see off the back of the situation with all that debt at AFC Auckland. But going forward, and we start to see the squad that's already here at Cashmere Technical. Hopefully I won't say AFC Auckland too much by accident during the course of today's episode, but a couple of recognisable names in there. Riley Boudoir up front is actually a fairly promising player, albeit we'll see how he fits into the style that we want to play here at Cashmere Technical, albeit apparently a 4-2-3-1 does suit, so maybe we can just bring our tactic over from AFC Auckland. But potentially more interestingly, they've got Elijah Just, who is a player who was playing for the All Whites at the start of this save for us. Very interesting to see he's left Europe and made his way to the New Zealand National League. He should be a very good player at this level. Could be a bit of a game changer for us during the course of our time here at Cashmere Technical. The rest of the players, I'll be honest, don't know too much about them, apart from Corey Brown at the back. He formerly used to play for Nelson Suburbs in Tasman, which is around where I live in real life. So a couple of names there that I do recognise. They actually only want us to avoid relegation from the Southern League. I think we can do a heck of a lot better than that. This is a team that should be going close to winning the Southern League based on what I've seen on the season preview and whatnot. Surprisingly, that's also what the fans do expect from us. As I said, I think we can go a lot better than that. We'll keep making our way forward, sort out the press conference, and we are now here at Cashmere Technical off the back of our successful time at AFC Auckland, and also, of course, have picked up a couple of trophies as well with the All Whites and made the second round of that most recent FIFA World Cup. But here is the situation at Kashmir Technical. There's the club information again. Pretty decent. The youth facilities and recruitment could be improved a little bit, as well as the training facilities, but got lots of money in the transfer budget, and hopefully we can improve this club and make them a force to be reckoned with here in the New Zealand National League, and hopefully do a bit of a better job at the nation building side down here than we did at AFC Auckland. But now I'll just go forward a little bit and show you what I've done so far in terms of transfers, and also just a general look at the squad and what we might need to do going in to this upcoming season, as well as try and explain the New Zealand National League rules. And before we even look at the transfers I've done so far here at Kashmir Tech, as well as our current tactic and how we do look in terms of our first choice 11, including a signing which should be pretty popular, I am hoping. Here are the rules here for the New Zealand system for the National League. Now there's 3 sub-leagues to qualify for the 10-team National League. We've got the Northern Premier League. We're not in that one, but that historically has been the strongest one. That's the reason that the top 4 teams, they qualify for the National League from that division, and the bottom 2, they get relegated. Then there's the Central League, so that's a bit more of the Wellington wider region. That northern one obviously based a bit more around Auckland and Waikato. The top 3 teams from that Central League, they make their way through to the National League Championship, and only the bottom team, they get relegated down. And we are in the Southern League, so this is a South Island League, and only the top 2 teams from this division make their way through to that championship. That's 9 teams. The other team that is always in there is the Wellington Phoenix Reserves. They get a spot every single year, but the bottom team, again, they get relegated down to the division below. But the top 2 teams from our qualifying league make their way through to that National League Championship. And what we need to do then to qualify for the OFC Champions League is finish in the top 2 and make the grand final. So hopefully we can do that, if not in the first year of the save, in the second. As I said, still got a couple more months before the season starts, I believe, to make some more transfers and get everything sorted out. We ran through a couple of these rules in terms of squad registration at the end of last week, just to show you guys shouldn't be an issue here with this league compared to the A-League, but the only rules are the matchday squad, no more than 5 foreign players, and must be at least 2 under 20 players in the playing 11. So we should be able to manage that, and also only 3 subs used from 5 names, so less subs than we had in the A-League, but hopefully won't be too much of an issue. And in terms of what foreigners are for this league, obviously New Zealanders are locals, but also Australians, as well as people from the Cook Islands. Those are the 3 nationalities that do count as not being foreign. Everything else that counts as being a foreigner. So it does mean might have to be a bit careful in terms of the players that we do sign from overseas, albeit I believe once we get to the OFC Champions League, once I find it, that things are a lot more looser in terms of foreign players. The only rules I can see here in terms of squad registration is it's a maximum of 30 players. So we could actually have a couple of extra foreigners who we might be able to just hoard up there at Kashmir Tech, which might make things easier both in this tournament and if we can make our way through to a FIFA Club World Cup. But last time that Kashmir Technical were in the AFC Champions League, because of course, as we saw at the end of last week, they did win the National League. If we go back, it was back, if I can find it here, just give me 1 second to go back to the profile. They won it back in 2024-25, the second year of the save, I believe it was. That season, they made their way through the group stages very safely. You can see that they picked up 3 wins. Those games actually happened in February of that year, so technically it was part of the previous season. There you can see the group phases and what happened. They won all 3 games and made their way through quite comfortably. As you can see, could be some very interesting bus trips taking place if we can make our way back into the OFC Champions League, albeit might be a bit similar to the one we did in Vanuatu a couple of episodes ago. I say a couple now, it was a while ago I think it was, but going forward to the quarterfinals, that's where they actually got knocked out by a team from New Caledonia, which I'd say is a pretty disappointing result for a team from New Zealand being knocked out on penalties after losing 3-0 in the second leg. So for some reason their Kashmir Tech must have taken that a bit lightly, and that opened the door for Western Suburbs to win the AFC Champions League in 2025, but since then they've been struggling just a little bit. Gonna have a look here at the club history once we can find it in terms of their performance. This is going to be a little bit messy because of how things work. But the year after they won the National League, they finished third, so just missed out there on an AFC Champions League qualifying spot because Birkenhead did them on goal differential. That would have actually been an interesting team to go to. These days, they're not even in the top tier of the Northern League. The year after that, they finished in fourth, so a slight decline there, as Wellington Olympic and Auckland City, as you might expect, were the top two teams. And last season is the year they had a real shocker. They finished bottom and did not pick up a single win in that National League phase. You'd like to think that's something we can do here in our time at Kashmir Tech, especially because based on season preview, they should be the 9th best team. And of course, this isn't a very good preview because it includes every single team from every league in the National League, even if they don't actually make their way through to that championship phase. You get rid of some of those teams from the Northern League who won't qualify because there's not enough spaces for them to do so. And Kashmir Tech should be a fairly decent mid-table team based on the season preview, but we'll see how we go, especially off the back of doing a couple more transfers. The ones that we've done so far, you might be able to see it there, bottom of screen one, which you'll find a little bit interesting. But we'll go over to the transfer hub and just cover this off quickly because no doubt we'll do more and it will change everything going in to the start of the season, which hopefully will be coming up tomorrow. But the first signing that I made when I did arrive at the club is we bought him a son from AFC Auckland. For some reason, they loaned him out to Canberra United, and no one deserves that. So we signed Adam Does FM for 20k. Now, when he was at AFC Auckland, he had current ability of 1 star and potential of 2 stars gold, 3 stars white. So that should show you the difference in quality down here in the National League. He is a first choice player for us down here in quite a few positions, pretty much everyone that he can play. So this is actually going to be quite good for my son. He should get a lot more game time down here in the National League. So there could be a bit of a father-son link-up going on during the course of this upcoming season. I think at the moment we might start him as a central attacking midfielder, but certainly a first choice player that we did buy for £20,000. Just thought we better save him from Canberra because, as I said, no one deserves that. No wonder AFC Auckland are now struggling so much. Also, signed a young goalkeeper from the New Zealand under-23s who was available on a free transfer in Josh Hawkins, and here's an upgrade on what we already had, and another under-23 goalkeeper in Matt Ford, a different one to the one that we did have at AFC Auckland. Just a very, very similar name, but this guy looks quite promising, especially at 17 years old. That might sort out one of our under-20 players as well as Adam Does FM. And one more signing that we have made just recently from Auckland City on the state, in fact, Lamuli Nitingashi. We have signed him from Auckland City, again for a fee of £20,000. He looks like a really good centre-back option and with a decent bit of potential, albeit none of these players really have enough potential to feature, I think, for the All Whites in the future. The only player who might is that goalkeeper that we did sign before, but do need to build up the reputation of the club, I think, before we can sign some players that will actually make a difference in terms of doing the nation-building side of this Build a Nation challenge. But that's what I've done so far. Going to try out the 4-2-3-1 that we had at AFC Auckland, the vertical tiki-taka, albeit the team will change a bit more, no doubt, by the time that we come back for tomorrow's episode. But here's what we're looking like at the moment. 5 foreign spots currently. Some of those are being taken up by Albertine at right back, Mangolo at left back. He's actually someone in the Dream 11, so certainly someone we should probably keep, even though he's a regular starter for Botswana, which is something I don't really like, but the fans like him in the Dream 11. Probably someone we should keep for the first season of the save. Luke Tung's English but part New Zealand, so that's okay. Doesn't count as a foreigner, and everyone else in this team at the moment, they are a New Zealander or an Australian. So just 2 foreigners currently in this team in the starting lineup. We've got someone from Indonesia, I believe it is, on the bench. He's someone who's transfer listed because don't think he's too great, especially at the age of 30. So hopefully we can get rid of him and replace him with a local. But apart from that, we are loaded up here with local players, so it does mean got a couple of spaces to bring in some foreigners, and hopefully we can do that once we find the best quality locals who are available on a free and can spend some money out of that nice transfer budget that we do have to strengthen up our weak areas with foreigners, albeit, as I said, probably still a bit low in terms of reputation to be getting any players who will in the future help us in terms of the national team. But hopefully that's a good run through of what things are going to look like here at Kashmir Technical. We'll come back tomorrow and finally get back in to some gameplay. We'll play our first couple of games of the National League season and also do another run through of what our team does look like once I finish off the moves that I am trying to make here to strengthen up the squad. But if you're looking forward to our time here at Kashmir Technical in the National League, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying the series here on the channel, also consider hitting that subscribe button and turning that notification bell on as well. As I said, tomorrow we'll come back and play our first couple of games of the Southern League with Kashmir Technical. Also do a recap of an international window coming up before then with the All Whites against Cape Verde and South Africa. That will be an interesting one. Two teams who could prove a little bit tricky, but until tomorrow for our first games at our new club and hopefully a few goals from the sun. Thank you very much for watching. Keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers.